Good afternoon, Florence, and welcome to our second in a series of Facebook Lives to help share with our community some of the information regarding the upcoming school year. Today we'll focus a lot on the virtual academy and the AB curriculum and really what students will be doing and teachers will be involved in during the course of the year. We've had a tremendous amount of questions regarding that, and we felt this was appropriate to handle those questions in a theme for this afternoon. If you didn't see, we're going to start adding different aspects to our our Facebook Lives with a very specific theme for each one of them. Monday night at 7 o'clock will be our Students with Exceptional Needs, and Mr. Brian Denny will be leading that. So if you have a child with special needs, that would be a good time for you to tune in and ask some questions. We did ask for some questions ahead of time, so maybe we can hear from the community what needs to be addressed, but that'll be a continuing theme up to when school starts of specific areas to help the community understand the different aspects of our school. So we hope these are helpful and we provide as much information that we can. Prior to coming on today, we asked the community for some questions, and some of the questions will be asked and answered during this period of time, but there are a few that I wanted to start off with before I turn it over to my two special guests that are joining me today. So the first thing is transportation. Transportation, anyone who is able to take transportation and have enrolled for transportation, there will be an email coming next Thursday. So if next Thursday you do not receive an email from the district or the transportation office about your child's route, bus number, time, please call on Friday to help us. It might be an incorrect email or there might be something wrong in the system. We will be releasing the transportation information to all those parents and students next Thursday. Preschool letters are going out today, so if you have a preschooler, teacher, the schedule, and some other safety and bio information and material information for our preschool, those letters are being mailed today, so you can expect them arriving in your house in the next coming days. For preschool, that will give you a lot of information. Again, if you have any concerns about a schedule or concerns specifically to your child in that school, I urge you to call the school, call the principal to work on those things. They're all involved in that process right now, and they would have the best information, most accurate information to assist you. And again, I'll remind everyone, please register your child. Regardless of the modality in which you choose to have your child be taught this year, you need to register your child. That is one of the most important steps in all of this process to do that. And I encourage everyone to continue to look on the website or any of the notifications on social media about when registration, in-person registration is, and the distribution of some of the materials. All right, let me get into some of the questions. There are about 8 of them that I think are not included in the presentation today that I would like to help answer. So this question is, if students do not come back in-person instruction in October, will they have to commit virtual instruction for the whole year at that point? The answer is no. We're going to do this by market period or midpoint. So the next time after October would be at the end of the semester, which is in probably the 3rd week in January. So they wouldn't be committing at any point in time for a whole school year. We're all optimistic that we will be in a different place hopefully by January. But if that is the case in October, they would only be committing until that January, which is the end of September. What is the plan for transitioning in October? Is October 8th the cutoff date, or is it before that date? So there will be a form online if you choose to change that, whether it's face-to-face to virtual or virtual to face-to-face. And that form will be available from September 10th all the way up to October 8th. We hope that if you need to make that decision, the earlier you put that in, the more likely we can make those transitions on October 8th. If you decide to put that form in on October 8th, you can be assured that it'll take us a while to put schedules together to do that. So I would encourage you, at any point in time between September 10th and October 8th, there'll be a form that you can submit to the district, and the earlier you do that, the more likely we can plan for October 8th to be a transition. How will social distancing measure be accommodated if a lot of students want to return face-to-face? If you recall, we actually went at this that the entire district was going to be A/B day. That's why we're doing this, to add social distancing. So we will remain A/B in order to accommodate if most of those students, and depending on where we are as a community, as a state, and as a country, that'll be able to be accommodated, but we believe we'll be able to do that. It provides a lot of different challenges if you put more students into the schools, but we think we designed this with the A/B trying to separate everyone if that is the case. Will there be any walkthrough for incoming freshmen at high schools, either virtually or a private tour? I got responses from all three high schools. Wilson High School already did a virtual tour for freshmen. That is posted on their Facebook page if you would like to preview that. If you would like to have a private small tour, Dr. Robinson said you can contact his office and he would accommodate those requests. West Florence intends to do a virtual next week for incoming freshmen. And again, Mr. Dowdell said if you would like a private tour or a small group, he would accommodate those requests. All you have to do is contact his office and he will work with you on that. And then South Florence, they intend on sending out a virtual tour today for incoming freshmen. They're going to do small group walkthroughs on the days of September 2nd and 3rd, so please look out for that as well. Next question, will schools be providing masks for free for students? Yes, yes, yes. We will have masks, shields for both our staff and our students, whether it's to get onto the bus if they forget, or in the classroom at the school. We're providing those opportunities for both staff and the students. If we get to 50% of students doing virtual only, which we're at, could the rest of the students do 5 days in person rather than A/B? The answer is no. Right now we are trying to develop really two schools, a virtual school for 8,000 and a school face-to-face for another 8,000 students. So we had to juggle teachers to move. Remember, we have the same amount of teachers to provide both options. So it's not like we have teachers just in the schools anymore. They're going to be teaching virtually. So we still have limited amount of teachers to do both options, so it doesn't go away that there's a bunch of teachers waiting for a whole group of students. As students come back, those teachers will come back off of virtual, and that's how we'll begin the transition. So our goal is, and always has been, to transition back to what people would call normal school and everyone in school, but we're just going to have to wait to see what happens when school starts and where we are as a community and as a state and as a country. Has a decision been reached as to whether or not special ed students can attend in person 5 days a week? That will be a large part of the conversation on Monday night, so please tune in. Mr. Denny and his staff have been working hard on that issue, and I would like to pause and let them handle that issue on Monday night at 7 o'clock. What percentage of parents have chosen virtual academy for their students? It's about approximately 48%, a little over 7,800 students. We're pretty close to about a 50-50 split with virtual and in-person face-to-face learning. Is there a baseline number of positive COVID cases per school or classroom that the district will use to determine if a school will be closed? As I said all along, I said at the last board meeting, there is no metrics that you can use. If we actually use the metrics that have been provided to us, we would all be hiding in our houses because it's 3 times worse than it was when we did close. So I will say those metrics are very complicated and are distributed, but we're going to go into this with that we're going to take a look at where we are as a community, as a school community, and make decisions on a daily basis of where we are. And given the guidance that DHEC just released, I think it gives us a lot more flexibility to remain in school than it does to close schools. So I think there is no metrics. I know some school districts have put themselves, I would call it, in a box on some metrics that I don't think they ever can meet. And so I don't want to put ourselves in a position that I think, again, we'll rely on our health experts. We've got 3 great hospitals and healthcare facilities in our town that we're very fortunate to have, and we'll rely on their guidance as well of what's happening in the healthcare. And then finally, Will testing in Virtual Academy use, I think it's pronounced Rondus or Rondus, like online classes, college classes, in order to keep grading practice and testing practices fair between high schoolers in person versus Virtual Academy? The answer is no. We will talk a little bit about the grading policies and practices, but we don't have any special things. I don't want to get to the intent of this question, but we're not having anything different whether you're virtual or face-to-face. One of the last things I'll talk about is today we'll be releasing to our staff guidance regarding visual and performing arts. I know those are some questions and specific to especially our magnet schools, so we'll release those documents to our schools, and then we'll release them to the public. We want the teachers to have an opportunity to understand the parameters and the guidance that we're providing for those classes. So that'll be coming forth. But it's also exciting to know that we're also entering some exciting partnerships with the Florence Museum, the Florence Symphony Orchestra, the FMU Performing Arts Center, and the Florence Regional Arts Alliance to provide some really innovative arts experience to both our virtual students and our face-to-face. So we're really happy about all these partnerships that are happening in our school that we'll be announcing shortly, and bring those things to our students regardless of what you have chosen. Those are the questions that I felt that were asked. There are a few that will be answered in a short while, but before I introduce both of our guests today, I do want to send out a thank you to all of our staff. We have guidance counselors, custodians, principals, computer operators, attendance people working late into the night. I don't think, and please don't take this the wrong way, I tend to do that, but people do not understand how hard it is to do what we're trying to do and do it well. And we have so many people that are dedicated to putting their personal time day and night into making sure not only everyone's safe, but just trying to make sure that they're providing the best for our students and a safe environment for our teachers. I can't thank everyone enough. I can't list everyone by name, but I did want you to know that we recognize all the hard work and we appreciate all the hard work. And as a community, I hope you appreciate that when you see all their efforts when you arrive, or you see the education that you'll have starting on September 8th. So I do want to send that out. And the two people sitting next to me are part of that, and I'll introduce them. Ladies first, Ms. Michelle McBride. She's our Assistant Superintendent for Elementary, and Greg Hall here is our Assistant Superintendent for Secondary. They will lead the discussion now and a presentation regarding the Virtual Academy, the AB Day, and a lot of the curriculum things that they had questions, and some of the questions that you asked. So I do want to share with both of you, I appreciate all your hard work. Normally I'm hard on you, never mind in these times, so you can appreciate those kinds of things. Greg came in with a big set of beautiful hair, and this is what happens after a few months, and those things happen. But I did publicly want to share and thank you for all your hard work and the work you're doing with our principals that are carried to our schools. So thank you, and I'll turn it over to Ms. McBride, who's going to start us off.
Hello, Facebook family, community. I know there's been a lot of talk about what our virtual academy will look like in Florence 1, and a lot of people assume that it will look exactly like March with our e-learning days. And Mr. Hall, that's exactly not the platform that we're going to present for virtual schools.
Not at all, not at all.
So we were given the task of creating a virtual academy for our students in Florence 1 who had some concerns about coming back to school face-to-face. So we will present our plan for our virtual program for our kids for kindergarten through 12th grade. The purpose of our virtual academy is to provide online-based instruction that mirrors the exact face-to-face instruction for our students. So essentially, our kids that are in our virtual academy will be in Cohort A, because our face-to-face instruction is Cohort A and B. So our students in virtual will follow the model of Cohort A on those instructional days.
And along with that, Michelle, we're going to maintain high expectations for learning for all involved in the Virtual Academy, the students, the teachers, and the parents, to ensure that the quality of instruction and quality of engagement and the learning experience for all involved is definitely at the same expectation we have for all students in Florence 1.
And as Dr. O'Malley has said numerous times, your child will have a certified teacher from Florence 1. It doesn't necessarily mean that that teacher will be at that child's school, but it will be a certified teacher for Florence 1.
That's right. And so a little more into the expectations now of what this is going to look like for our students. Students are going to have a schedule assigned to them based on what their typical schedule would be, their academic schedule. And so it's going to be important that students log in every single day to every single class at their start time. So for instance, middle and high schools begin at 8:30. Their first periods will begin at 8:30. And if their schedule assigns them to an ELA class or a math class at first period, they would log in at 8:30 with their class and their teacher.
And the same is for elementary students. Our elementary start time is 7:45. Virtual students are expected to log in at 7:45 each day.
We also want students to be participating in this class. This is going to be different from e-learning in that they're going to have a live teacher who's providing instruction, and we want the students to take part in the virtual learning the same way they would in a live learning. So we want them to interact with the teacher, ask questions, participate, watch the video, or watch the teacher's lesson, and then definitely complete the instructional activities that are assigned.
Our students will have access to Chromebooks. We want to adhere to our Florence 1 technology guidelines. We do have some filters, but unfortunately our filters do not catch everything that happens. So please be mindful of the websites that you go on with the device, and that our policies will be in place even though that device is at home instead of them being in the school.
That's right, and along with the guidelines, it also applies to submitting assignments. So teachers are going to have deadlines for assignments. It may be daily work that's due at the end of the period. It may be daily work that's due as homework due for the next class period. Those assignments, we're going to follow the same guidelines and the same due dates as we would on any traditional instructional day.
And as we move forward with our information for virtual, you'll see a schedule, and in that schedule it is instructional time for students, and we would like for our students to engage with their teacher during that time of instruction. So student participation is required during virtual learning.
So Michelle, we've talked about student expectations. We also have high expectations for our teachers to ensure that your students in Virtual Academy are receiving high quality education. And so the teacher expectations, we definitely expect our teachers to provide direct instruction. As we stated already, the core content classes definitely are going to be logged in live time each and every day. And so those teachers are expected to provide direct instruction in those classrooms every day.
And I think we're going to see those teachers being creative with the lessons and having students highly engaged. Those teachers also will maintain parent communication. One of the ways we utilize parent communication for elementary school is Seesaw, which is a platform that we use, that we purchased for our district for kindergarten through first grade, and I think we even include our pre-K students as well, and we use Remind One-on-One. So those effective communications and email. One of the best ways that we can get in contact with parents. So parents, if you change your email address throughout this period, please make sure you update that information with your child's school.
We also expect our teachers to follow the Florence 1 School staff guidelines for instruction. So that means they're going to follow the lesson, they're going to submit lesson plans, they're going to make sure the lesson plans and assignments align to the scope and sequence and the content standards for each subject. We want to ensure that students are receiving high quality education and instruction from teachers every day.
And one of the most important factors is that we are following a model that represents our face-to-face instruction. So we will see teachers modeling standards to students, for there to be some dialogue between student and teacher, independent practice, guided practice, lesson closure, and times for students to ask questions for clarity. And most importantly, classroom discussions, which can be very entertaining at the elementary level at times.
Absolutely. So that engagement is definitely key for that learning to occur every day. We want our teachers to be prepared and present each period with lessons and activities for students. This is not just going to be to watch a video and then turn the students to independently work without any guidance. They're going to engage, and those teachers are going to be prepared for those students that are showing up and logging in for them every day, Michelle.
Yes, and our teachers will participate in district professional developments. It may be virtual or it may be in face. We kick off our professional development for teachers on Monday, the 24th. Our virtual teachers will participate in those professional developments that are designed by content area, grade level, and just some specifics that they may need throughout the year.
And so, in short, what we expect in the virtual academy for our teachers is that high quality instruction still occurs, it's engaging, and that student support is still available. The students are not going to be left to themselves. That student support and engagement, just like we would have if we were face-to-face learning.
Parents, it will look very different from e-learning. I think during e-learning you wore many hats, and one of them was to be the classroom teacher. We're going to remove that hat from you for virtual. So for parents, our expectation is that you provide a workspace for your child that's free from noise or distractions, for your child to easily get to their console, their PlayStation 4, and just provide that good workspace so that it is conducive to learning.
And parents, we also want to ask you to help monitor the login time and their active time with instruction, because they're going to be counted. Their attendance is going to be counted based on their login and their participation and their work submission. We want to ask you to help monitor their login times, to help them have a schedule that they know that they're supposed to log in for their classes, and that they're there on time and they're ready to go. The same way if you are bringing them to school or helping them get up to get on the bus in the mornings, we want you to ensure that you're monitoring that login time and their instructional time.
Teachers will provide a daily and a weekly schedule. Parents, if you can help your child with that schedule to stay on task throughout the instructional period.
And what's different in our virtual academy now compared to e-learning, we want our students to work as independently as possible. They're going to be engaging with content with their teachers, and so we expect them to struggle and learn and really grow through that learning process. And so parents, we want you to help them and assist them as you would any other way, but also encourage them to work independently through the content they're learning.
And as much as we love technology, we know that sometimes there are some problems when it comes to technology. So parents, if you could be there to assist your child with technological issues so that there's very few loss of instructional time if there's a technical issue.
And parents, as we stated earlier, there are going to be assignment deadlines and due dates, and it's potentially could be overwhelming doing this in the home setting and trying to keep up with these dates. One of the skills that you could help the students with is supporting the completion of their virtual assignments and monitoring their work and deadlines. Stay in communication with the teachers in the school. Make sure you also understand when those due dates and deadlines are, and help your students make sure that they're turning in their work so that they get the credit for the work they're doing.
And we want to maintain our contact that we have with students, even on our virtual platform. So engaging in conversations with our guidance counselor. If you need a guidance counselor or a school-based therapist to reach out to schools for those contacts. Unfortunately, during e-learning, we lost a lot of contact with families, and we don't want the same to happen during our virtual platform.
And so Communication and connectivity during Virtual Academy is critical, and one of the biggest resources to us in Virtual Academy is going to be our devices. And so Chromebooks are definitely an important piece of that. And so all of our student Chromebooks are going to be issued next week during the registration week when schedules are available. Each school has been communicating and has posted what the registration schedules are and for when your students can go by and pick those materials up. And so Chromebooks will be part of that distribution next week.
And in order to receive your Chromebook, you must have a completed registration, regardless of whether it's online or face-to-face. So if you have documentation that you did not upload on our registration portal, please bring that documentation into the school so we can verify and have that information on hand so we are able to give the students their devices and textbooks that they need to start the school year.
Some of us may receive a notice from the school if you go to pick up the Chromebook that they can't issue one because a Chromebook has already been checked out. If there is a Chromebook still checked out to your child from last year, we will not issue a new one until that last one has been turned in and accounted for. Please be sure if you have a Chromebook at home, check around, check your surroundings, check maybe that book bag, check the bed, wherever it may be where that student has used that in the past. If you have not turned that in, it is imperative, it's going to be very helpful to us that that gets turned in so that we can issue your child a device so that they can be ready for virtual learning on day one.
And we do know that we will have students that are new to Florence 1 that signed up in our virtual academy. Those students, we need to make sure that we have the students in our Power School portal, and we're able to barcode our Chromebooks and our textbooks before we issue those items to students. So if you're a new student, please be patient. We will issue Chromebooks and textbooks probably just at a later time, and the school will notify you for an appointment.
So other materials that are extremely important for our learning are textbooks. And so textbooks are going to be available for our students to support their learning. For middle and high school students, all of them are going to have access to the digital textbooks that we have available for all of the learning. However, some students might like to have a hard copy textbook to support their learning to use at home. And so if that is the case, we ask that you reach out to the textbook coordinator at each school and request a hard copy textbook for the courses, and then they will schedule a time for you to come and pick those materials up individually.
And the same is for elementary schools. Elementary schools will use our digital platform for textbooks. There are a couple of books that we do not have on our digital platforms. Those are our handwriting books and our grammar books. Those books will be given out during our registration period. And if you need a hard copy of a book, if you would contact your school, they will make sure that a hard copy is given to students.
So now into the details of what they're going to be learning in Virtual Academy, the curriculum and instruction components. It's important that we understand our Virtual Academy students are not missing out on anything, Ms. McBride. They're going to be taught the content that aligns with the South Carolina College and Career Ready standards.
That is correct. And to ensure that we are prepared for these kids in case they come back to face-to-face, our virtual model will follow our face-to-face model, which is that face-to-face instruction for Cohort A. So on day one, our virtual students will receive the same curriculum as our virtual students. So they will have activities that are direct instruction that support the kids for the first day of face-to-face. The second day may look a little bit different, and Greg, do you want to talk a little bit of how that second day will look for our virtual students?
Absolutely. So the second day of instruction is still live time. They're going to log in at their assigned time, and that teacher is then going to provide some support, personalized learning or extensions of learning for the previous day of new learning. And so on that personalized learning day, the teacher might review the concepts, the teacher teacher very well then may work with some small groups of students that might have struggled with the concepts. The teacher will likely then assign maybe some additional work that supports additional learning related to the previous day's learning. Or there might even be some gap skills, some foundational skills that are preventing the student from being successful with that learning. And so that teacher might have some unique assignments for the students on that day as well. So that is what that personalized learning day will be used for, to support the new learning from the A-Day new instruction.
And our students will also receive classwork assignments along with assessments. And these will be assigned regularly throughout the week. We will still follow our grading policy and our assessment policies for Florence 1. And they still have a deadline to turn in these material, and we can't preface that enough. Students will not have an extended time to complete assignments. So if I'm a child and I'm in an elementary setting and I have an English assignment, I may have to turn in my English assignment during my independent practice at the end of that time slot for that period.
And that's right, and that would be the same in middle and high school. If there's an assignment that would traditionally be turned in at the completion of the class, that's when those students will complete those and submit those assignments just in the virtual method, whether it's Google Classroom or however the teacher requests them to submit it. So along with policies, Ms. McBride, another policy that still applies in our virtual setting is the Student Code of Conduct. Even though we're not in the physical building, you are still a F1S student. And so being an F1S student means that you are still expected to adhere to the F1S Student Code of Conduct. And so especially while we're logged in and we're engaging with other peers, we're engaging with our teacher, and we're using a district device, we're going to be held accountable to those student rules and the code of conduct, and actually those consequences could still apply if a student's in violation, even in the virtual academy.
Yes, and being respectful to your peers and your teachers while you're communicating and having that dialogue with each other in a classroom discussion. Just making sure that we adhere to the school's rules and their policy as we navigate our way through virtual academy. Attendance. Attendance seems to be a big one that gave us a little run for our money doing e-learning. So we wanted to make sure that we express the policy for attendance during our virtual platform. Attendance will be taken daily at the beginning of each class period. So a student can be tardy if a student does not sign on at 7:45 for elementary school and 8:30 for middle and high school.
That's correct. And so if they're not logged in on time, they might be tardy, but also they have to remain logged in for the duration of the class to be counted as present as well, and be engaged in that class and submit their assignments to be counted as present as well.
And we talk about technology issues. In the event that you have been disconnected from the internet, if you will try to find a way to document that and then email your teacher or email the school or call the school to let them know I'm having difficulty right now, and give them the time frame so that we can communicate effectively with the classroom teacher.
And so, Michelle, in addition to that, the teachers are going to record their videos, the live instruction. And so if there is a connectivity issue, the student, after communicating that they had a connectivity issue, in order to be counted present, they'll view that video and then complete any daily assignments that were required for the students. And those would be submitted by the specified period, and that is what would have to happen for them to be counted present for that class period.
And our technology department, they have done a wonderful job of supporting us during this virtual learning experience starting in March.
Michelle, I think we have the best technology department in the
I
state.
agree. And
They're
they're here
one.
today. They've done an awesome job. But even in our virtual setting, if you're having difficulty with our Google Classroom, we will have IT support. We will have a folder for those problems, and an IT person will quickly respond to issues that are being had within the virtual world.
And so we're talking about attendance, but obviously absences, very well legitimate absences may occur. And so in the event of absences, there are protocols or practices that will follow for Virtual Academy. And so for excused absences, if a child is sick or if there's a doctor's appointment, that all may occur. And so in order to submit parent notes or doctor's note, parents, you would have to email the school attendants with that information. If it's a parent note, the same policy applies. You would have to submit that absence parent note within 5 days of the absence. If it's a doctor's excuse, you would have to submit that doctor's excuse within 5 days of the absence for it to be counted as an excused absence.
And if you do not submit anything, then those are considered unexcused absence. And we would prefer that you submit your documentation in order to rectify those absence instead of having an unexcused absence. Our policy for the district is 20 absence, 20 excused, 10 excused, and 10 unexcused absences throughout a year.
And so some of you may be asking, who would I email? Who is the attendance person? And we have created an easy way for you to communicate. There will be a specific email address for attendance-related issues for each school site, here are some examples. So, for instance, if a child attends Briggs Elementary School, that email address would be attendance-BES@fsd1.org. And so basically you're using the school acronym, school identifier, and that's the attendance. So if you attended Moore Middle School, that email address would be JWMMS, attendance JWMMS@fsd1.org. And if you attended the home of the Tigers, Wilson High School, that would be attendance-WHS@fsd1.org. That would be the attendance email address you would use for things like absences and excuses, parent excuses, or medical excuses.
And your school will communicate your email addresses for attendance to you at a later time. Getting started. What do we need in order to get started with Virtual Academy if I'm a parent or a teacher, Mr. Hall?
They're probably going to want some information from their teacher, Michelle.
So, our teachers will contact students during the week of August 31st with a Google Classroom code and other information by email or telephone call. We want to make sure that these kids or these students have a relationship and a rapport with their classroom teachers. So we're going to try as much communication as possible before we get started on September the 8th.
And I want you to know that our school staffs have been working day and night tirelessly to ensure that all of our students, our AB cohort students as well as our Virtual Academy students, are going to have schedules ready for them to pick up next week. And so virtual class schedules, as well as the assigned teachers if they're elementary school, those will be provided during the registration pickup next week. So the students will be able to pick up their schedule, see their teachers, know when their class times will be, and all of that information is available next week.
Elementary. We have developed a plan for pre-K through 6th grade. And that is with the exception of Moore Middle School, who houses 6th grade, but Moore 6th graders will fall under the middle school plan, correct, Mr. Hall?
That is correct. Moore will be following the middle school model.
So we would like to start with our child development program that's housed at Woods Road and RN Beck. Our 3K and 4K students will follow cohorts A and B, A through K for cohort A, and L through Z for cohort B. And again, that information will be mailed to parents. We will send an email and we will contact you by telephone indicating which cohort you're in. Our child development schedule is from 7:30 to 2:10 each day. Here's a glimpse of what a K2 day 1 schedule may look like. At 7:45, the child will log in for a morning meeting. For 8 to 9, They'll have a live reading lesson with the introduction, modeling, guided and independent practice, along with the lesson closure. All of the time allotments are a balanced model for elementary. From 9 to 9:30, they will have Orton Gillingham, which is our phonemic awareness instruction. From 9:30 to 10:30, a live math direct instruction, again, that will follow an introduction, a model, independent and guided, along with the lesson closure. And students will have access to accelerated reader. So they have 30 minutes dedicated to self-selected reading. We will continue to use Mayan. We used it during our e-learning platform. Mayan will be used to check out books digitally for our students. And then they have a lunch and a planning from 11 to 12:15. The planning is more for the teachers. At this time, students can do activities, whether it's coloring, drawing, take a break and go outside for a little bit of playtime. But again, at 12:15, the child must log in for some writing live direct instruction. 1 to 1:45, the social studies live direct. And from 1:45 to 2:15, the science live direct instruction. Does that mean that your child will be paced to a computer all day? No. They will have independent activities where they will take a break from the computer and complete some handwritten activities for the class period. So a sample day 2, again, they log in, and this is where that personalized instruction comes in place. So from 8 to 9, the teacher may pull certain students for small group instruction, a scaffold review, and support Lexia Core 5. We do have a new program that we're utilizing this year, Freckle, and Freckle will support our ELA and our math instruction. And again, this is their personalized instructional day. Well, they will have small group instruction throughout the day, even writing conferences. But still, you still have that dedicated time to self-selected reading for accelerated reader. And this is our sample schedule for 3rd through 6th grade on day 1. And again, it mimics our schedule for K through 2. And on day 2 is that personalized learning where there's small group instruction throughout the day to help support students who may have not understood the standard at that time of teaching the previous day. So it will provide them with a little bit support and clarity in a small group instruction. We went over textbooks, but I wanted to make sure I communicated again that our students on the virtual platform will have access to digital print, and that the books that will be distributed, hardback copies, are handwriting books for 2nd and 3rd grade, and our English grammar books for 3rd through 5th grade. Again, we talked about accelerated reader, and you saw it in the schedule. It's our independent reading time for students, and they will have access to Mayan. Accelerated reader and Mayan are all in our digital platform on the students' Clever. And so they can log in through Clever, along with Dreambox, our support for math, Lexia Core 5, our support for reading, and Freckle, our support for math and reading. Our platform that we're going to utilize for elementary school to engage students and for parent communication, Seesaw. And Seesaw, it says kindergarten and 1st grade, but it's actually for our 4K, 3K and 4K students as well, kindergarten, 1st grade, Google Classroom for 5K through 6th grade, and Remind 101. Remind 101 is an app that our schools love to use for parent communication and dialogue. It sends you an immediate text to let you know what's going on in the classroom or in the school. Students will still participate in our district assessments. KRA for kindergarten, which has to be administered within the first 45 days of school. STAR testing for kindergarten and 6th grade. that will be administered within the first 2 weeks of school. Link it for 3rd through 6th in district benchmark tests and quizzes. Our grading policy will stay the same for the upcoming school year for face-to-face and virtual. Our formal assessments will count twice in the grade book, and those are our unit tests, our benchmark tests, extended writing pieces. Our informal assessments will count once in the grade book. Those are our quizzes and our weekly assessments. Students should have at least 7 total grades by the end of a grading period. So at the end of 9 weeks, there should be a total of at least 7 grades, 1 grade a week in content areas. And students will have 5 days to complete missing assignments. And that's the same for our face-to-face.
All right, if I can get the clicker from Ms. McBride, and then we will continue on. So a little more details about middle and high school. So here's a sample schedule for a middle school student in the Virtual Academy. So for a potential 8th grader, beginning the school day at 8:30, they would log into their ELA class, log in live, and participate with their teacher and their classmates from the 8:30 to 9:30. There might be a transition period, as there would be in the regular school transition day, and so then at 9:35 they might have their social studies class, and they would log in and take the social studies. And then their 3rd period might be one of their electives, and so career exploration might be one of the classes that an 8th grader would take, and they would log in with their teacher. If the elective was something that might not be a live login with a teacher, that we'll be able to communicate that. The school will have that information out. If it's then going to be a Google Classroom based, then the information will be loaded into the classroom. Student will log in, progress through, and then there will be specified times throughout each week that a teacher would log in live to provide support for those students, to answer questions and provide feedback for their work and things like that. They'll also have a scheduled lunchtime, so 11:45 to 12:15 might be this student's lunchtime. 12:20 might be a second elective class. However, in the secondary, we might not be able to offer every elective to every student. Based on staffing and limited staffing in the elective areas, some of the electives might not have a class, and so in the event that a middle school student might not have 2 assigned electives, they might have a study skills period built in that we would give some guidance towards those students on individualized learning with some supports through other programs like reading and math. There might be some daily independent reading with some assignments to complete in Edgenuity. That would be individualized learning paths to support those students. In this sample, that student would have that kind of a schedule. Another student might have PE in this period or health in this period. Then they would transition and go to their 5th period science class, and then they would end their day in math. Of course, the arrangement of those could be different depending on the student. So here's a sample high school schedule, very similar. Of course, the high schools are on block schedules, but for 1st period, a high school student might start their day logging in at 8:30 with their high school class and their high school teacher for 1st period biology. Then that student might have Spanish 2 in 2nd period. And that very well may be an Apex-based class where the content is going to be delivered through an Apex platform and then supported by an F1S teacher. And so that teacher would very similarly log in, might not be live with them every single day, but those assignments would be due. That teacher would monitor their progress and progression, grade their work, provide feedback, and then schedule some routine times throughout each week to meet with those students. It might not be during that 10:30 hour. It might be some unique times, but they would work with those students for that. There would be a lunch break as well from 12 to 12:30. Then they might have the live ELA class at 12:35, and then they would end their day with 4th block geometry. So the schools are working to be sure that they have created these schedules to meet their needs, to meet their credits towards their graduation. That has been the priority, ensuring that each student is earning their credits or in the classes that are going to count towards their graduation requirements. So our Career Center still is going to offer all of their courses. However, the Career Center and the nature of those classes, they're all offered in person. And so those are still available to our Virtual Academy students. However, understand that those are only available to go to in person. And so that is an option, but if that is not something that the students or the families are willing to participate in, then they would have to enroll in a different kind of a course or a different elective in place of those. But if you do still proceed with going to the Career Center for those courses, those are available to you, and then the transportation there would be the responsibility of the parent as it falls in to the daily schedule. So we also have our Rush Academy and our alternative program, which will continue to operate. However, this year, the alternative program at Rush Academy is going to be fully virtual. And so what that means is those students that might be assigned to begin or continue any assignment in the alternative program at the beginning of this school year, you'll still be assigned into the alternative program at Rush, but you're going to participate virtually. And so you'll still receive your instruction, you'll still have the classes, you'll follow the same Virtual Academy kind of model where you'll log in with the classes at specified times, completing assignments by the due dates, but that is going to be a virtual program. So they would follow the normal enrollments, and you also must complete the assigned times that you would have for alternative program, and follow those guidelines of the alternative program in order to earn your way out of that program and return to your home school in the traditional setting. I do want to answer a question that came up, that if you are assigned into the alternative program and you satisfactorily complete that assignment and you're ready to transition, we would allow the choice at that point if you transition to AB cohort or if you would transition into virtual. That would be an available option at that point for those students transitioning and completing the alternative program. Rush Academy will also support high school students as they previously have been doing with their Flex Center, and that is more so for things like credit recovery or some specific course needs, and those will be worked out together with Mr. Kennedy over at Rush, as well as the high school principals and counselors to identify those students that might have some unique course needs. So for instance, we might have a junior or a senior that has identified they're missing a credit that they need, but they already have a full schedule, and we might be able to work with the Flex Center to get a student an additional course to get them back on track with where they need to go. And so that will still be something we're able to offer. We covered earlier about textbooks, digital textbook access for all of our students, and if you want those hard copies to support your at-home learning, by all means, the Virtual Academy students or parents can contact the school textbook coordinator and arrange a pickup of a hard copy book. For our secondary students, we have a lot of online supplemental curriculum supports, and so as we've mentioned, definitely we have Apex Learning, a lot of course content, not only for initial credit, but Apex is used a lot to support learning. That may be something that on those personalized learning days, the Apex could be used to support the instruction from the previous day. We also have access to a new program this year called Edgenuity, which supports not only English and math, but the science and social studies, some of our CATE classes, foreign languages, and even some of our electives in the arts. So there are some Edgenuity courses that can provide video-based instruction that students can use to review, as well as individualized learning paths to support. We also have access for Lexia Core for reading support, USA Test Prep, and so as we mentioned, some of our electives, based on some staffing, might have a platform that's more tech or app-based and self-directed for the students, such as career explorations, which is a requirement for all of our 8th grade. They might be taking career explorations through Edgenuity, and that will be monitored and supported by our F1S teachers, and again, some scheduled live times could be conducted to provide that support and feedback, but those may be some self-paced elective opportunities for our students using some of these support models. Secondary schedules. So for Virtual Academy, again, you may take some elective courses in person, even though you're in virtual academy. If you're opting in to do that, transportation will be the requirement of the student or the parent. If opting into some electives like band or chorus, you would have to contact the school counselor to indicate that you want to come to school for these courses, and you would have to let them know, hey, I'm a virtual academy student, but I want to come into the school for my band class, or I want to come into school for dance or ROTC. And if that's the case, you would have to do that, and then they could work out that individually live scheduled class. However, it is important to note that we are bound by capacities, classroom capacities, due to social distancing. Sometimes these classes are larger enrollments, and we still have to abide by capacities for social distancing guidelines. So if we hit that capacity and you are requesting to come in for a lifetime elective, we may not be able to honor that, but we will work with you to try to make that available to you as best as possible. Some electives may not be available for Virtual Academy. We just unfortunately cannot offer everything in our course catalog. If an elective is empty in your schedule, again, there's going to be some recommended activities for students to follow so that they can continue their progression of learning. So we have some platforms for student engagement, for parent communication and student communication. Much of this is going to be housed primarily in Google Classroom. That will be the warehouse for each individual class that students are taking. For most of our classes in the academic realm, where content is going to be listed, maybe logins for the Zoom meetings, maybe the homework assignments are submitted in Google, but that is where most of these are going to be housed, and so each student will be receiving those logins. We also will be using Google Meets or Zoom initially. As we begin the school year, these two video platforms, video conferencing platforms, will be our primary sources for students and teachers to engage in that instruction and interaction. Teacher and student emails are definitely a key way for students and parents and teachers to communicate regularly with each other. As Ms. McBride mentioned earlier, we also will continue to use Remind 101. And of course, we want to plug again for everyone to be sure you've downloaded the F1S app and monitor those on your devices because the schools push out a lot of information on that F1S app as well. So the AB cohort, most of our conversation today has been about the virtual academy, but we wanted to drop a little bit of information about the AB cohort. So the AB cohort is the in-person learning day. So if you're an A-Day student, if you're in the A-Day cohort, your A-Day in-person learning day is a traditional learning day with the teacher in the classroom setting, going through instruction, doing classwork assignments, maybe working in some small groups at appropriate distancing. So that is what a traditional in-person learning day would look like. You would progress through your schedule. The learning extension day we reviewed a little earlier, that personalized learning day will extend that learning from the in-person in Google Classroom. But then in order for you to be counted present on that extended learning, because you're not going to be live time with your teacher on that personalized learning day if you're an A-Day, B-Day cohort student. You're not going to be live with your teacher on that extended day. So it's going to be more self-paced, and the attendance policy for that AB cohort on that virtual day is that you log into your classroom, you see the assignments, you view any materials that need to be viewed, and you submit those assignments by any prescribed deadlines. That is how attendance is counted for those students on those extension days or personalized learning days. So a lot of folks have asked, what will the B-Day cohorts do on September the 8th? Do I just have a day off? No, Ms. McBride, you don't have a day off. You still must attend school in your virtual setting on September the 8th. So the B-Day cohort on September the 8th, you will log into your Google Classrooms and you will participate and complete the Day 1 orientation assignments that the students are doing live that are on the A-Day cohort. You'll just be doing those independently, and then on the B-Day that you attend, the teacher will pick up with you and review those materials and continue that work. District assessments, much like we've continued, we'll be doing the Linkit benchmarks assessments. Also, district benchmarks tests and quizzes will be administered. There also may be some diagnostic assessments for personalized learning platforms. So, for instance, if classrooms are using Edgenuity, especially if we're using Edgenuity in Virtual Academy for students to work on their individualized learning path for some gap skills, that diagnostic assessment might be administered so that the program and the teacher can be well informed about exactly where the student is performing. All of these assessment dates will be announced at a later date in terms of when we're going to conduct Linkit and these benchmarks so that we're well prepared for that. A little more details about our grading policy. So it's extremely important that we understand the importance of our formative work, our daily work, our classwork, our homework, those Bell activities. We have two categories of assignments in not just Virtual Academy, but for all of our students in middle and high school. And so we have what we call formative assignments and summative assignments. Formative is about the ongoing learning, the practicing, the classwork, the homework, and those calculate to be 45% of the grade. And then summative are the large assignments, the tests, the projects, the quizzes, and those count towards 55% of the assignment. We also have some expectations that there will be at least one formative assignment that is in the grade book every week. So what we want to prevent is all of a sudden you've heard nothing for 6 weeks or 7 weeks and all of a sudden 12 grades get dropped in the grade book. We're going to expect that there is at least one formative grade in the grade book each week. And then also for summative grades, we have the expectation that there's going to be at least one summative grade every 2 weeks. That doesn't mean that there's going to be a test, a large unit test every 2 weeks, but there might be a quiz. If that unit is a 4-week unit, we might do a midpoint check just to see how the students are doing, but that would be a summative. That is to summarize the main learning we've done every 2 weeks. So the way that semester and year-long grades calculate, if you're in a semester course in high school or middle school, we are going to administer final exams, not midterm exams, but we will administer final exams for our semester and year-long courses. So the way that breaks down for overall calculation of your grade for semester courses, first quarter would be 45%, second quarter would be 45%, and then a 10% final exam. For year-long courses, your first semester grade would be 45%, your second semester grade would be 45%, and then another final exam calculating as 10% of your final grade. And then starting to wrap some things up, sports updates. We are continuing to follow the South Carolina High School League guidelines for our sports practicing and conditioning. And currently, most recently up until last week, we had been in the 1.5, but now we have started to have some of our high school league sports begin official practice season practices. So as our sports are beginning their official season calendar practices, they have transitioned out of phase 1.5 guidelines and are now fully capable to practice with gear and equipment and with all typical practice regulations. But of course, we layer on top of that safety guidelines for contact and appropriate use of equipment and shared equipment, things like that. So the teams that have already started official practice, they started last week or this week on August 17th. That was tennis, golf, and swimming. Next Monday, we begin with volleyball and cross country, and then official practices begin on September the 8th for football and cheerleading, and that is when we would be able to transition out of that 1.5 for each of those starting dates into official practice guidelines. And then, of course, as things continue to be decided and any potential changes, we await the high school league for any further information or guidance on additional steps that we do not have information for at this time. And so, Ms. McBride, that is the middle school and high school information. You've thoroughly covered the elementary information. Hopefully we've answered a lot of questions for you at this point. And so I think, Ms. McBride, you have a couple of questions or something else to add?
I do. I do want to make sure I communicate about elementary recess. So elementary students will participate in recess and they will have use of our playground equipment. We've been given that guidance. We will sanitize our playground equipment after students use it to make sure that we're following CDC guidelines. But our students will be able to use playground equipment for recess. And as Mr. Hall said, that was a lot of information. Dr. O'Malley gave us a huge task to create a virtual academy in a short period of time. But I think we've had a comprehensive plan in place. And it helped having questions posed to us from the community to help guide and direct us as we build this plane as we're flying. So we're very appreciative to our staff, to our community for supporting us during this difficult time. And we're still excited about the opening of school. Our schools will open on September 8th for face-to-face instruction and for our virtual academy. I do want to communicate with you all that our CDAP program, our Child Development Program, will operate on cohorts A and B, while other platforms are for K-12 for face-to-face and for virtual. You all have been wonderful in supporting us. Thank you so much for tuning in to our Facebook Live. Don't forget that we'll have Brian Denny talk about and speak about special ed on Monday night at 7 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you.